Welcome to the video. This is the Bridge Method, your roadmap back to reconciliation and connection and prevention of divorce. Okay, so when your marriage is hanging on by a thread, clarity is hard to come by. Okay, you're overwhelmed, you're emotional, unsure of what to do or what not to do, and that's where the Bridge Method comes in and can really help you. It's not guesswork, it's a structured, proven process designed to help men navigate the chaos of separation and move deliberately towards reconciliation. This method gives you a clear step-by-step path to follow so you don't get lost in reactivity, desperation, or confusion. Okay? If you're serious about getting your wife back and rebuilding your relationship from a place of strength, the Bridge Method shows you how to do this. Okay? With a calm, control, and a real focus on the direction moving towards reconciliation, because there has to be a process in place. Okay, this is really important to understand that you follow the process. All right, so the Bridge Method entails the following key steps. Step 1 is giving space, and whilst you're giving that space, you're identifying and breaking all the negative patterns that you're aware of. Okay, number 2 is renovating yourself, becoming your best version. Okay, number 3 is then, once you've made those changes, you've identified the negative patterns, you're given space, okay, you're renovating yourself, you're becoming your best version, you start inviting open communication, you start talking more, and you build what's called psychological safety. Okay, then we move to step 4, which is building emotional safety, because you can't build emotional safety unless you firstly have psychological safety. Okay, so they build off the back of each other. Now, we move into step 5 and we continue to grow. We continue to identify the blind spots, we refine our process, and we get better and better as time goes by, and we continue the path towards becoming our best selves. Now, that length of that process is sometimes longer than people expect. Okay, it can also be shorter than people expect, but generally it's a longer process. So the last step here is to endure. Go through that process and endure and show endurance. Keep showing up, keep focusing on that process, and remove outcome-based thinking. You need to focus on the process and you need to endure. Okay, through the Capo principle, which is the knowledge. We learn new things, we learn what works, we put it into action. Okay, we be persistent. Key word there, persistent with the right knowledge and the right actions. That's what makes the outcome fall. Okay, we don't strive for outcomes. We make them fall, or the outcome comes to us. We don't pursue the outcome. We pursue the process of the outcome, if that makes sense. Okay, so using the Bridge Method, men can effectively navigate the often tumultuous journey of reconciliation. It is designed to help you regain balance, foster understanding, and ultimately rebuild a stronger, more resilient marriage, preventing divorce, keeping your family together. That's what this Bridge Method does. Okay, so step 1 is B of Bridge, obviously, is break. Okay, step 1 is break. The first step in the Bridge Method is to break the pattern you are in. Immediately cease any behaviors that are causing further damage in your reconciliation attempts. Okay, stop letting your emotions control your actions. It's not an emergency. Okay, you can fix this. You must calm yourself and commit to a process, a proven method. Okay, this requires you to stop any needy, egotistical, victim-based behaviors that may be pressuring your wife consciously or subconsciously. Okay, this means ceasing all forms of pleading, desperation, crying, fearful actions, hovering or fighting, or subconsciously pressuring her to work on the marriage. Okay, you need to give her space here. This is breaking the pattern. You've probably begged, you've probably pleaded, you've probably seek to really make her feel bad about her decision. That's going to do nothing but push her away further. Stop doing that immediately. Break the pattern, okay? And the way we do this actually verbally is we do what's called a patch, or in the program I run, the Married Ambition program, it's called patching. And what we do is here, we be really clear with our intentions, okay, once. Okay, and what this patch is, it's about really taking on ownership of the problem. Okay, understanding the problem. Okay, so firstly, to even get to this point of patching, do an initial patch, you have to actually understand why you've got to this position. Okay, we take on extreme ownership. We explain that we know the problems. Okay, we tell her that, we're making changes no matter what, with or without her, and we're moving towards our best selves. And in the meantime, we say we don't want this divorce, we don't want this separation, but we are giving her the space she wants, and we're going to work on ourselves. And you let her know that the door is always open if she wants to talk about anything. And then you leave it, and you withdraw, and you pull back, and you give her the space needed. The physical, the emotional, the mental space. Okay, you need to give her space. I cannot reiterate this fact enough. You need to do this. Okay, you need to break the pattern. Alrighty. Now, this involves strictly implementing what's called the 2/3 rule. Once we've given the space, it's the 2/3 rule. That doesn't mean we go no contact and we act indifferent and we act like we don't care about the marriage. It's not what I'm telling you to do. We implement what's called the 2/3 rule, which means that if she reaches out, we reciprocate with a response, a friendly, light, teamwork-based response. Okay, we're not looking to save the marriage. We're looking to build what's called psychological safety. We'll get into that later. But the 2/3 rule is about not reaching out. It's about giving her 2/3 of everything she gives you. So if she sends you texts, you respond, but you don't initiate. Okay, so if she doesn't initiate with you for 2-3 months, so be it. That's what we have to do here, because she is determining if this marriage continues or not. Okay, because she wants out. So any form of pressuring from you is going to push her further away and justify her decision. Alright, so strictly implement the 2/3 rule. It's essential to give her both physical and emotional space, as I spoke about, allowing her the freedom to breathe without the weight of your expectations. Okay, you need to understand her position, where she is hopeless about the marriage. And if you pressure her, she'll perceive that as you only caring about what you want. That will push her away. So your goal during this phase is to banish any needy behaviors and redirect your energy towards your personal growth. Outcome independence, which means that we focus on the process and we want that outcome. We want that reconciliation. We want to save our marriage. I understand that's why you're watching this video. But what we need to do, we need to switch to the process of doing that. We don't focus on outcomes, because that is going to cause you so much problems, such a roller coaster of emotions, because you're focusing on outcomes and you're basing it off her behavior, where she pulls back, she comes closer, she pulls back. It's going to be up and down for you. All right. So process thinking over outcome thinking. And then we also have to become what's called outcome we have to be accepting of outcomes, which means that if we were to be divorced, we have to actually be able to thrive in that position. Okay, and this is not me telling you that we want to be divorced. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you don't deal with that fear, if you don't actually look at this objectively and say, okay, there's a possibility here that I may become divorced, right? I need to, if you're going to save your marriage, unfortunately, you have to be okay with the possibility of being divorced. And the reason why that's so important, because if you're not okay with that outcome, all your communication is going to be coming from that position of fear, that paradigm of fear, and it's going to push her away further. Okay, so you need to address that. You need to become outcome independent, and you need to be accepting of outcomes. Okay, give her space, absolutely crucial. So the goal here is to implement space, establish a strong foundation by banishing unattractive behaviors and prioritizing your personal growth. Now, we move on to step 2. So once you've done everything in step 1, we're in step 2 here, which is renovate. Okay, you need to renovate yourself. You need to do a renovation on yourself as a person. Okay, out with the old and in with the new. Once you have broken the previous patterns which pushed her away, and you have given her space, how long that period of space is unique. Okay, it's unique to your situation. Okay, and once you've given her that space, once you've ceased exhibiting unattractive behaviors and established a foundation of strength for yourself, of independence, okay, the next step is to reinforce this new dynamic by renovating yourself even further. Okay, it's time to start the deep work and identify and remove the core internal reasons for your unattractive and reactive behaviors. How did you get to this point where your wife wants a divorce and you want to save it? Okay, you need to take on that extreme ownership. Okay, you need to surrender to that process that we're going to go through here. Extreme ownership, understanding the problems deeper than your wife, understanding her perspective. Okay, you have to identify what's called in the program. I have your core dysfunction, which is the electron or the old teenager, and you will resonate with one of those two. You will resonate with one more than the other, but usually you have tendencies of both. So the electron, the old teenager, two very different dysfunctions, but both display one critical thing: a lack of leadership, okay, especially in the emotional realm. Now, you have to also identify the negative paradigms that are attached to these dysfunctions, okay, which is the victim mindsets, which is the ego mindsets, which is the outcome-based mindsets, which is the FAE bias, which is back to ego. So it's quite complicated, and you have to do a lot of work here. This is the renovation of yourself. And then what we do, we take out the old and we put in the new, and that's the new ways of thinking. That's the new paradigms. That's the new mental models. That's the new ways we communicate, the new emotional response frameworks, okay, which is in the program. And we begin building frame, all right? Frame is your physical, mental, and emotional aspects as a man, okay, your physicality, right? You have to build capacity. You have to be in good health. You have to be strong. You have to be fit. You have to be attractive physically, okay? Your mental frame, you have to be resilient. You have to be strong. You need to take on mental models of leadership. You really need to build your mental models. You need to build positive ways of thinking. Okay, we do that in the program. And then lastly, emotional frame. You have to control your emotions. And controlling the emotions is really a losing game, because what the goal is to not have these emotions come up, because emotions come up by interpretations. Okay, so your interpretations, which ties into your mental frame, is what's really going to be the difference between you saving your marriage and not. It's all about interpretation, because your responses, are critical. That's what creates safety with her or destroys it, which then, once you build safety, it goes to attraction, it goes to respect, and everything's moving where it needs to be once those things are in place. So critical to control your emotions and reframe your emotions, reframe your interpretation so you get a better outcome, okay? So you need to go deep into your understanding of the Catch-22 and the core 4 dysfunctions, which is what I do for you when you first join the program. We go through your core 4 reasons, the core 4 dysfunctions that you constantly displayed in your marriage that's got you to this point, which ties into what's called the Catch-22, where she feels completely hopeless about the situation because she doesn't believe you can change. Okay, so the goal here of the renovation at step 2 is to have a deep and clear understanding of how and why you are in the position you are, okay, whilst maintaining your physical, mental, and emotional frame, or we're starting to build those aspects, and we're also giving her physical, mental, and emotional space. We're not pressuring her, continuing on from step 1, okay? Now, then we move to step 3. So once we've done that renovation, once we've given her space, once we've identified the negative patterns and we've really done the work in those areas, we can then start having conversations. Okay, and if you have children, if you have shared responsibilities, if you have mortgages, if you have family members, this is not going to be an issue. You're going to be talking regularly, okay? It's not going to be the way you want. It's going to be very external-based conversations, nothing too deep, which is good. You don't want that. You want to give her space, like I said. So, but here in step 3, the key, okay, we want to invite her into this environment that we create, which is safety, okay? Psychological safety, to be more direct and more exact about what I'm talking about here. We don't want to be really having emotional conversations here. We want to build a base level of psychological safety. So we work with our wife, okay, on logistical matters such as family responsibilities, finances, other shared commitments in a calm and professional manner, like a business partner. Okay, you want to provide a safe environment for her to converse with you, okay? And she's going to be aggressive. She's probably hostile towards you, and that's completely understandable. But you have a lot of control in this situation, and you can control your response. Okay, if you become reactive, women, that's the women's game. They're emotional. So if you give them reactivity, they also become reactive. If you give them grounded stillness, they calm down. So you can control this aspect to an extent. Okay, it's all about how, and when I say you can control it, you can control what you do, which will then hopefully flow onto her, and you can start building psychological safety. Okay, so what you need to do here is you need to maintain your responsibilities whilst introducing or maintaining boundaries. Like I said, she's going to push you, she's going to be hostile towards you, she's going to test you. Okay, you need to limit your discussions to only what is necessary to manage these tasks. Okay, the logistical tasks of a family, of a house, of all the issues you've had in the past about how things run, bills, money, all that stuff. You need to manage those tasks and be treated like a business partner. Okay, so minimize emotional interactions that will lead to negative conflict and further damage. So as you become more comfortable after establishing a base level of communication, okay, a base level of safety where she can talk about logistical things, logistical matters with you, okay, regarding the marriage, kids, things like that. Begin to engage her in light, non-emotional conversations, such as asking how her day was, how the pet's going, what do you think about the kids, this aspect of their schooling, whatever it is, okay? Just engage her in non-emotional conversations. The goal here is to foster an environment where interactions are neutral or positive, okay, paving the way for healthier communication. This is important because, there's been a very thorough study done by world-renowned therapists, and they talk about what's called the magic marriage ratio, and this is where you have interactions and there has to be a 5-to-1 positive ratio. 5-to-1 positive to negative ratio. So for every interaction you have with your wife, it's either going to be neutral, positive, or negative. Now, we want to have more positive interactions here, and the ratio has to be at least 5-to-1. Okay, so that's the goal here, is just to foster that psychological safety, that where the interactions are positive or they're neutral. Okay, paving the way towards healthier, deeper communication. Okay. Now, creating that welcoming environment is absolutely crucial, okay, in this step. Now, strictly adhere to the 2/3 rule, which we spoke about, and you want your wife to feel safe and comfortable expressing her thoughts and general feelings without fear of judgment or backlash, okay? Think just baseline safety here, okay? Communication. This involves doing work on your paradigms and then using the appropriate emotional response frameworks at the correct times. This goes back into how you communicate, which in the program they're called emotional response frameworks. We have 6 of them. Okay, DESC, BANFA, attunement or attune, APCA, OPDA, and patching. All right, now these are the way that we fix our communication by following those frameworks. But those frameworks are useless unless you fix your paradigms, how you interpret things, because communication is 90% non-verbal, which means that your body language and your tone is so much more important than what you're actually saying. Okay, so this step, step 3, right, it's about building psychological safety. You encourage openness, you encourage honesty from her part, which is vital for rebuilding the trust, fixing that catch-22, and rebuilding the connection in your marriage. Okay, so the goal is to establish psychological safety where she can express herself openly and honestly about general things, logistical issues. We don't want problems during this phase. We want clear communication. Okay, step 4 is D for demonstrate. Okay, you must demonstrate change, which fixes what's called the catch-22, and you have to build further psychological safety. So this is, saving your marriage or getting her back in the boat, getting her wanting to work on the marriage again is not something that can happen in an instant. Okay, she's probably been checked out for a while. I can guarantee she's been checked out for a while. Okay, so you need to switch the dynamic, and this takes time. And you need to build what's called safety, psychological and emotional safety. Okay, that's the goal. Now, this is a process. This is why the CAPO principle is so important, the knowledge, action, persistence, outcome. Okay, so we need to be patient. We need to continue to build further psychological safety, which then leads to her opening up emotionally. Okay, and we seize every single opportunity to do so. Now, when she becomes emotional, okay, we use our frameworks. The key one being attune, attention, turn towards, tolerance, understanding, non-defensive response, and empathy. And then we also use patching, where we understand the problems that she has with us. We really understand them. You should understand them deeper than what she does at this point. And you reframe them, and you use techniques in patching such as old me, new me. So yeah, I can't believe I used to do that. I've really identified those issues and I don't do those anymore. And we can really start planting seeds of change. And what happens when you plant a seed? The tree comes out, or the plant comes out, and it causes fruit later on. And that's what we get later on, is the fruit of our labor, because we plant seeds. We're a farmer, okay? And we do this by using the frameworks effectively and being consistent with our new self, with our new changes, okay? And we seize every single opportunity to do so. This will not happen, though, unless you first build that base level of psychological safety with her. And that psychological safety will not happen unless you work on yourself originally by giving her space and renovating yourself, identifying the negative patterns. So you can see that this is a process that it all builds on the back of each step. Okay, so in step 4 here, we're demonstrating our changes. Okay, during discussions, it's imperative to maintain composure. Okay, we don't let our emotions control us. We respond, and we don't fall into old reflexive reactions from the negative paradigms. Okay, from the old teenager, from the electron, and from these negative paradigms that play havoc on your mind, havoc on your interpretations, and then they cause the reflexive reactions. So respond. Okay, you need to learn to start responding. Okay, look at her intention, understanding, validation. This is going to facilitate healthier and more productive dialogue. So we're going deeper now into the psychological safety, and then she's going to start opening up emotionally. Okay, and then we use our emotional response frameworks to really build that safety. Okay, so important to master the ERFs. Now, acknowledge her feelings and experiences, because they're real for her. They might not be real for you. They may not be reality for you, but for her, they're definitely real. Okay, she's willing to end the marriage. So validation is key. Okay, acknowledge her experience. It's a big part of attunement. Okay, your main tool is patching and attunement. Okay, so your aim is clear. You must start. So you've built the psychological safety. We now move to emotional safety. She starts opening up. You have to start really having the deeper, more difficult conversations. And if you can have those, and you can hold your frame, and you can not become emotional and reactive, and you can move towards win-wins and find solutions, this is where you start really making inroads into saving your marriage. Okay, this step is about becoming a leader in the emotional realm for the woman. She's looking for leadership. She's looking for that groundedness, that stillness, that masculine energy that can provide the leadership that she wants and that you haven't displayed before. So create an atmosphere where she can discuss the problems without fear of you being defensiveness, of you being defensive. Okay, so the goal here, step 4, establish and display emotional safety by validating feelings and encouraging further and deeper open dialogue. So the key to building emotional safety with your wife is that you have emotional safety yourself. So what does that mean? Okay, we need to be emotionally secure. So when we've done the renovation, we've identified how we interpret things through our paradigms, and which causes the emotions. So we become secure. We fix the paradigms. We actually go deeper into our problems. Okay, with our negative patterns, we fix them, and that means we become emotionally secure. Then we move to emotional intelligence, which means that if we feel emotions, we don't become reactive to them. We become assertive. We use the assertiveness frameworks, which is the ERFs again. Okay, so it's about choosing a response instead of being reactive. Okay, and then lastly, we be authentic. We be genuine about how we're feeling, but we do it in an assertive way. We don't do it in this weak, emotional, looking for validation way. We do it by being clear, by being assertive about how we're feeling and what we want and what we don't want. Okay, then that leads into your boundaries and with the DEST framework, which is also another ERF. Okay, so This is where you can really build the safety once you get to this step 4, okay? Then we move to step 5, which is you have no option but here to grow and to be consistent, okay? Personal growth is a continuous journey. It's not a destination. It keeps going, okay? And in this phase, you should embrace small daily improvements in your behavior and mindset. Continue to identify the blind spots and increase your awareness of areas to improve in, okay? Focus on building frame, your physical, your mental, and emotional components of frame, okay? Building frame takes time, so be patient and be consistent and adhere to the CAPO principle: knowledge, action, persistence, outcome. Identify a mission, okay, outside of your marriage. Live life to its fullest and truly thrive, okay? This is what is going to get her thinking about her decision and if it was the right one, okay? If you're thriving, if you're building attraction, if you're building respect, if you're building safety, all these things are going to make her question her decision to end the marriage or separate, okay? Which is what you want. And then you be consistent with that. And then she's going to go through what's called the paradox of change. She's going to test you. She's going to test your changes. She's going to test your resolve. She's going to test your reactions, your responses. So you need to have done the work in the background, okay? The performer's mindset, where we're getting ready for the game day. This is where she comes in guns blazing, and you either pass the test or you fail, okay? And these are the real pivotal moments in the reconciliation process that determines if you're going to save your marriage or not, okay? So remember, step 5 here is about growth. It takes time. Be patient. Focus on the process, but it's essential. This stage, step 5, is essential. You can't shortcut any of these stages, all right? Now, the goal here in step 5 is to refine and improve your process. Continue to focus on your improvement. Continue to focus on identifying your blind spots. How can you be better? How can you build more safety? How can you build more respect and build more attraction? And then lastly, we reach step 6, which is endurance, okay? The final step emphasizes the importance of endurance, okay? In the reconciliation process, okay? We commit to the journey and double down on the principles you've established, understanding that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Let go of any attachment to specific outcomes. Focus on building consistent habits that naturally lead to a healthier relationship. We're building psychological safety. We're building emotional safety. We're on our mission. We're building our frame, physical, mental, and emotional frame. We're constantly on that process, okay? And we're ready. We're ready for these deeper conversations, okay? The goal here in this step 6 endurance is to cultivate patience and resilience, and recognize that meaningful change takes time, okay? And that effort has to be consistent. It's not based off motivation. It's based off discipline, okay? If you want that outcome, you've got to be disciplined. You've got to be focusing on the process, okay? And endure with this commitment. This is the key to lasting reconciliation, okay? This may take longer than you think. But is it worth it? Is it worth saving your family, keeping your family together? Still having that beautiful wife that you married. That you did. It's going to take effort. It's going to take work. There's no way around it. Okay, so be patient and do the work. There's no other way. The only thing that saves your marriage is change, real, internal, lifelong change here. Okay, so. The Bridge method encapsulates a comprehensive strategy for those seeking to reconcile their marriages by implementing each step in this method, right? Each step, which is giving space, identifying and breaking negative patterns. That's step 1. Step 2, renovating yourself. Step 3, inviting open communication, which builds psychological safety. 4, we go deeper into the conversations and we build what's called emotional safety. We grow personally, step 5, and step 6, we endure with that process. And that's how we save our marriage. That's how simple it is. It's simple, but it's not easy. Okay, and it's a lot of work involved. A lot of self-reflection, a lot of awareness, a lot of implementing new ways of thinking, new actions, new responses. It's a lot of work, and you've got to be consistent with this, okay? So by implementing each step in this method, you can cultivate a healthier dynamic characterized by emotional safety, open communication, and personal growth, which leads to you becoming your best version, which then leads to her wanting to reinvest into the marriage. Okay, you put yourself in the best position to save it. She chooses you because you can't force her back in. You can't force her back in the boat. You can't drag her back into the house and say, you got to like this house. As soon as you let go of her, she's running back out again. So you need to do the renovation. Okay, this journey, it is not without its challenges, okay? But with patience and commitment to the process, you can transform your relationship. Again, forget outcome-based thinking. That's going to destroy you. It's going to destroy any chance of you saving this if you're focused on that outcome. We focus on what's the process, what's the problems, what's the solutions, okay? Emphasize, like I must emphasize this, effort, consistency, endure. Okay, this method encourages a long-term commitment to change, paving the way for a renewed connection that thrives on respect, attraction, and safety. Exactly what your wife wants. Okay, leadership. That's the key. So here's a really solid, proven process that will save your marriage if you do this effectively. I have no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt at all about that. So focus on this bridge method. Really knuckle down on each step and do the work, okay? And you will get to the outcomes that you want.